Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to the Yegi Project. Today we have Drew Donaldson, who is the owner, founder, and CEO of GroHaus, which is a marketing agency that specializes on professionals with high skills and exceptional skills. Now, please, in your own words, Drew, can you give us more details? Who are you and what do you do?
Thank you for the great introduction and having me on. My name is Drew. I run a company called GroHaus, and we do specialize in professional service firms and helping them grow. My background is in strategy and in copywriting, and so when I started my agency, one of the things I noticed was that there were really two types of marketing agencies out there. There were big shops, like the ones that you read about in Ad Age, that work with Campbell's Soup and all the other big, huge brands. When a small business, or especially a professional services business, comes to a shop like that, it can very quickly become overwhelming because they want to give you everything. We'll take your social media and we'll do your website and we'll do this and we'll do that and and soon you get the bill at the end of the month and it's $15,000 and you're like, whoa, that's a lot.
Yeah,
And
for a
so
small business, that's quite a bit.
so then you kind of feel like, well, now I'm cut out. I don't really have an advocate that helps me grow my business. So then you start saying, well, what can I afford? And at the low end of the market, you have businesses that are specialists. So you'll have an SEO specialist, a pay-per-click specialist, a social media specialist. But the problem with those firms is that every time a client comes in, they just have one trick. So that trick has to work for every client. Otherwise, there's no value in them talking to you. So you come in, say you run a home healthcare business, right? Well, if you're talking to an SEO company, it's not going to matter whether SEO is the right tool to help you grow your business. That's what they sell. So that's what they're going to sell you regardless if it's the right thing or not. And they're not even going to, a lot of times, be self-aware enough to realize, like, hey, there's probably other things. Why? Because they're a specialist in that one thing. So they're assuming that you've done your research and that you've decided that SEO is the best choice. And so they're going to try to sell you SEO. Where we come in is we're a new model agency. So we say, well, we're not going to try to overload you with a bunch of crap you don't need and charge you $15,000 for just being your marketing agency. But we're also not just going to offer you one thing. What we're going to look at is, like, for your business and your particular situation, based on how much revenue you currently have, how many clients, your service area, all of that stuff, what is genuinely the best way for you to grow? I talked to two different businesses in the last couple hours. One business is established, has clients, has revenue coming in. Pay-per-click's going to be a great tool for him. We did some research. There's no one buying ads for his specialty in that area, but the traffic is through the roof. It's a match made in heaven for pay-per-click. The guy I talked to right afterwards is just getting started. He doesn't have any revenue coming in. What's the right thing for him? He needs to mine his own network. He needs to get an offer together that's really, really solid, that speaks to one audience. If I tried to sell pay-per-click to the guy with no money and no revenue, I'd be wasting my time. But instead, I've given him the next 4 steps that he can then come back to me or he could join my coaching program, or he could work with me at a lower level until he reaches that point where he can leverage paid media or social media or what have you. So that's really where we differentiate ourselves in the marketplace, is that we're looking at your business holistically and determining, like, hey, what's the right thing for your business? For you, it might be doing a podcast, but there's plenty of people in your line of work who would be terrible podcasters. It's not right for everybody.
Yes,
so
yes.
that's
Honestly,
the leverage it gives.
That's a great explanation. And I have looked and worked with quite a bit of marketing agencies and different type of programs. And what you say, I could really see a good fit there, right? A good need for that, because there are the people who do start from the beginning and they have no idea where they start with marketing. And like you mentioned, SEO, that's the thing. That's kind of the fun word out there. Everybody says, oh, SEO, but they don't really know exactly what it is, what it it does for their business, or if it's the right first move if we have a limited budget. Now, I know you also mentioned limited resources, which again is very realistic for new businesses, especially ones that are trying to start and grow, might not have like a huge budget or a startup loan to be able to invest in marketing. Can you talk a little bit about your strategy for companies like that who have very limited resources? Where would you advise them to start if they were your client?
So I want to break that into two groups because the advice is different for both groups. There's groups with no resources and there's groups with limited resources. Limited resources means you can't afford something on a monthly basis. No resources means it's your business or a car payment, and the car payment's going to get it because the car payment's getting you to work, right? Like, so there's a difference there. So
You're right.
if you have no resources, beyond just the basics of making sure you have a rock solid offer, making sure that you've identified your audience, their pain points, how their pain points transact with the offer you're putting into the market. What is that transformation you're giving them? Besides ironing out all those details, which really have to be done for either business, for any business before they really go to market, the person with no resources has to use grunt work and elbow grease to get in front of enough people, right? You're going to be on LinkedIn messaging people. You're going to be going and door knocking. You're going to be going and mining your own network of people asking, hey, I'm starting a business that does XYZ for this group. Do you know any people in this group that could use my service, right? So, I mean, that's it. That's all you really can do because you don't have the money to do anything else. And the worst thing you can do, the absolute worst thing you can do is the thing that most people will tell you to do, which is to create more content. Because the problem with content...
Honestly, I was going to ask you that next because it is I guess a misconception that you just have to be really active on social media, create content, post 3 times a day on different platforms. So what are your thoughts on that as a marketing professional?
It's great if you already have an offer that works in a funnel that's built and now you're trying to diversify the ways of traffic. If you're just starting out, it's terrible use of your time. And the reason is because it has the longest sales cycle of just about anything you could do, right? The chances that someone sees when you're starting out with zero, sees your post, is the right person for your post, has the money to buy what you offer, that your offer resonates with them, that they find the link in your bio. You're talking like 7 to 10 things that have to go perfectly right for that person to actually become a client. When you're going and direct messaging somebody on whether it's LinkedIn or knocking on their door, you just need one thing to be right. There are 2 things. They open the door for you, they open the message, and that they're the right person to buy the product, right? They have the need, they have the budget, all of that kind of stuff. So it's such a simpler process, but it's really time consuming. And it's also terribly soul crushing. Like what I'm telling people to do here is not easy. I know it's not easy because I did it. It sucks. It's the worst. It'll be the worst 6 months of your life, but it'll set you up for success. And once you understand how to do it and you have a system, then you can hire someone who doesn't mind doing it as much. But content posting, it's not going to get you anywhere quick unless you just happen to be one of those people who get lucky.
I have a follow-up question. So you're talking about rejection, right? That's the worst, to get rejected if you're in front of somebody or direct messaging. Now, what advice would you give to the listener who's like, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to go ahead and direct message. I think this is the right person. Or I'm going to knock on the right doors. What advice would you give them about getting rejected or the phone or the door being slammed in your face in the beginning?
So, I mean, it's kind of like it builds your armor. It builds your skin. Like, I get rejected now. People turn me down, and it doesn't faze me at all. Like, it has no effect on me. Yeah, I could get rejected 100 times in a week, and it would have no. I wouldn't be sad. Like, I wouldn't be like, oh, because I know that eventually the numbers are in my favor. The reality is that once you start closing business, and first off, all of those failures initially are all learning experiences. Like, we have to paint these in the right light. Getting rejected is a good thing when you're starting out because it shows you where you went wrong, right? If someone says no before you can even get your sales pitch out of your mouth, well, clearly your opener needs work, right? if they're opening the door of the message and the first thing they read is, I'm here to sell you something. People don't like being sold to. They love buying stuff. They hate being sold to. So your opener needs work. We need to open up that message, or when you open up a door, when someone opens up a door, you need to have a better opener, something that works really well. One of the ways that I've taught people that do like home services. So this is a lot of door knocking, a lot of like roofers, plumbers, that kind of stuff. When they're trying to introduce themselves to the neighborhood, is what I'll have guys do is I will have them go up to knock on somebody's door and say, I'm so sorry to bother you. Did you plant this garden out here? And regardless of what they say, the next line is, it is just so unbelievably beautiful. My wife has died. If I could give her a garden like this, do you think you could give me some pointers? And first off, even if they didn't install the garden, they're still fiercely proud of their house. They're going to give you something. Oh, well, you know what? I was walking by and just thought, oh, I love this garden so much. And I just had to come and knock. So I'm so sorry for bothering you. Oh, you're a plumber. Actually, I have a leaky like, it works so ridiculously well, because instead of going and knocking on the door and saying, hey, I'm your local plumber, hire me next time your sink's clogged, you're coming to them with something that gets them engaged. Ooh, they're being nice to me. They're saying my flowers are pretty. Like, I've had guys do this house to house to house, and they get business. They book appointments. They sell stuff right there on the spot, because it's not what people expect. And so that's the big thing, is like when you're first starting out, you have to think that if you're getting rejected, you're doing something wrong, right? And so don't think about, oh, woe is me, I can't make any sales. Think, okay, what do I need to change so I don't get rejected? Yeah.
Perfect. Honestly, that's great advice. So that's for people who have zero budget, right? To invest in marketing besides themselves and their time. Now, what about the people who have low budgets?
Paid media. And that's going to shock people, because most people think, oh, that's big money. I can't spend money on paid media. I can't do that. The reality is it's the quickest way to make money. It's the quickest. I've done marketing for 20 years. I've done every type of marketing you can think of. There is no quicker way to grow a business than paid media. And it's foolish to think that you can grow organically at the same rate as you can with paid. And so, like, if I had $100 in my bank account and I needed to make my mortgage payment next week, I'd blow it all on ads, because I know that is the quickest way to put customers into my business.
And what type of ads would you say? Social media ads, like being on TV type of ads, billboards, what type of media?
No, I mean, any kind of I would call them like brand building ads, like things like billboards, bus stops, TV. They're not great at generating quick results. They have to. That's why when you buy a billboard, you don't buy it for a day. You buy it for like a month or like 3 months at a time. Because not only is it, if you're buying a traditional billboard, they have to put the dang thing up, but it also isn't effective unless people see it over and over, right? It takes, on average, like 14 to 20 impressions of an ad before someone actually realizes, like, hey, I should look into this. So I wouldn't do those at all. I would focus, depending on your business, if you're a local service-based business, so we're talking like home services or someone who only serves your area, so like say you're a notary or something like that, then you should be focusing primarily on search. You need a good landing page with a lead capture element, and then you should be doing search. If you are a national brand, someone that can serve people all across the country, you're going to do a lot better with like lead ads on social. Lead ads are very expensive, but it gets you their phone number. Gets you their phone number, gets you their email, which gets you access to that person. You could also try messaging ads. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. It's kind of a hit or miss with those, depending on the platform and the market and what you do. I've had success on some campaigns, not on others. The most consistent way to do it is lead ads.
Now, you talked about ads. So this is for our low budget, newer entrepreneur, but who has a little bit of a budget. And we're talking specifically about service providers, professionals, not product sales or retailers, right? So, or is it the same for both, in your opinion?
No, so I mean, if you're e-com, if you're doing product sales, Google pay-per-click is going to be, especially with their Performance Max campaign, is incredibly powerful. It's so cost efficient. They've done a really good job with that product. And if you don't have your catalog of products loaded into Google Merchant, first off, if you don't have it in the Merchant Center, you're missing out on a ton of traffic just organically. Because by loading your catalog of products into the Merchant Center in Google, it actually already places it in the search results when people are looking, even if you don't pay for ads. So like, we have a client right now in your space that we were just talking. I won't mention their name or anything, but they had, we uploaded all of their stuff into Merchant Center. And it's a huge catalog of products. And they started making sales without ads getting run. Like, they started getting sales just from that. And granted, they have a lot of ads and they're in a niche market and so on and so forth. But that one step is huge. So with e-com, that stuff works really well. And then like conversion ads or catalog ads, product ads, TikTok Shop is insane. It's so incredible. So anything, anything like that that's quick, right? If you have an impulse buy product, something that's like less than $100 or even like $100 to $500 for the right audience, product-based ads on social or search are going to be fantastic for you.
So for service professionals and or product ads, for somebody who has low budget, who wants to get into marketing. So far they've only done organic, they've been posting, they're knocking on doors, but they're like, okay, I want to hire you, Drew, and I want to see what it can give me. What's the least or what's the average budget they need to kind of put aside to get started before they can obviously add more budget to marketing?
So I usually tell people, and a lot of this is determined by a couple of factors. One, what platform are you on? Because each platform has different budgetary limitations and minimums before you're kind of just wasting your money, right? Like Facebook will let you run $2 ads. It's been doing that since the beginning. Are $2 ads actually going to drive enough traffic on any given day to like really make it notice? No. It might help you. It might get you sales that you didn't otherwise get, but it's not going to be like, oh my God, I turned my $2 ads on and I just made $1,000. Like, no, not really. TikTok is a fantastic advertising platform for products and services. They have a $20 to $30 minimum on those ads per day. So you have to have a bigger budget for that. Your Google search is really based on your market. It's based on what your competition looks at. There's some campaigns for some, especially in like financial services, if you're not ready to spend $100 to $200 a day, it's not even worth playing in that field because you'll get outbid immediately. So really, when you take those three factors into account, what I always tell people is you should plan for $50 a day to start. Like save, and it's a lot of money when you think about it. It's not a lot of money when you consider the time it takes for a profitable ad to return that investment. So what I usually tell people is plan to spend $1,000 a month on marketing, $500 for a 10-day sprint, and run that 10-day sprint on TikTok or Facebook. Run it at $50 a day. At that level, you should see results almost immediately. Like within the first 24 to 48 hours, you should start seeing leads come in. Unless your ad's bad. If your ad's bad, then the game hold changes, right? But by spending $50 a day, you save yourself the more valuable commodity, which is time, right? If you're only spending $2 a day, to learn what you would learn at $50 a day, you'd have to let it run for 25 times as long to be able to make the definitive, this doesn't work. At $50 a day, you can run it for a week and say, this ad's going to work, or this ad's not working and I need to go and retool it.
And honestly, that's where professionals come in, right? And that's why I love talking about it, because I did business, jumped into entrepreneurship with zero experience. I had my master's degree, but nothing in practice. It was so different. And I had to learn the hard way. But one major thing I've learned is hire the right people to do the right things for your business. You will see a growth rate so much faster than trying to figure it out yourself. And I'm asking all these questions to you because I've made the mistakes and I've learned along the way. And there's still a lot that I'm learning, and I could learn from interviewing you as well. Now, you did talk about a budget of about $1,000 a month. So for somebody who all these things you talked about, let's say they have no idea what that is. They don't know what paid per click. They don't know how to even get on that side of the Facebook or the TikTok to set it up. So now, is that budget with also paying for a professional to help you, or that's just ad budget?
That's just ad budget. Most of these platforms have made it so that launching a campaign, like they all have kind of an easy mode that will it'll get you across the starting line, right? It's not going to be the best ad campaign. It's not going to be perfectly set up, but they have all tried to make it easier. Some better than others. TikTok, great. Google spent a ton of money redesigning their ad interface to make it easier, because one of the big things that kept a lot of people on the sidelines with Google Ads was that their interface it's really complicated. It's like, it scares me a little bit looking at it. I'm like, there's a lot of buttons here. It's kind of like the cockpit of an airplane. But there's an easy mode. Like when you first create a Google Ads account, it actually starts you in easy mode. It starts everybody in easy mode, and us people that run agencies have to go and turn off easy mode so that we see the full cockpit view. But easy mode, it'll get you results. Like I had someone that we built ads in easy mode because she wanted to be able to manage them. She didn't like the expert view that we showed her, and we built those campaigns, and she, within a week of those ads launching, she made $2,400 in sales. So awesome. Like you don't need an expert. Where an expert really comes into play is when you want to protect your investment best possible. If you're in a place where it's okay that you might lose that full $1,000 and you're okay with that because it's a learning experience and you've budgeted for that, and you're like, I gotta fail to learn.
Time to learn, yeah.
Yeah, then it's totally acceptable not to hire me. When you hire someone like me, you're buying an insurance policy. You're saying, I would rather trade the somewhat certainty that, listen, you run hundreds of these campaigns a year. You probably know what you're doing. You've probably written a couple ads that have performed. Otherwise, why would you have a business doing it? And so that somewhat sense of insurance, if you will, is or assurance rather, is really what people buy. And when my rates start, if you're just coming to me for ad buying, at around $1,000 a month. So that brings your total spend on marketing per month to $2,000. Most full service agencies start at $5,000. So again, that's really how we're differentiating ourselves. It's like we're
reasonable.
More affordable
Even for service-based businesses, a lot of them are small businesses. They're working operators. So I love that they have that option, that we have that option to give them through your company. Because $2,000, it sounds a lot for certain companies, certain places a month. It sounds like an extra thing, but the reality of it is marketing is really what's going to help grow your business. So if you're comfortable staying where you're at, great. Don't budget for marketing. But if you do want to grow, again, I learned the hard way quite a few times. A lot of things I also kind of in the past have said, okay, well, I'm going to do this myself now because I want to save the money. I'm an entrepreneur. I want to learn. I want to do it myself. But again, that always ended up being the wrong decision. In most cases, it's better to, invest in different areas of your business, which I think marketing is a must if you're not doing it. And if you have a small budget that you can do, that you can invest in it. All right, so we talked about kind of where somebody can get started with zero budget, with a low budget, and you've mentioned a lot of good resources, all the tools with social media, Google. I think that's phenomenal for somebody who is listening to this podcast and has never heard those things. You've made it very clear if they at least can have a good place to start. Within your company, you have a 5-phase methodology, right? I think that's what I read. Can you go over those 5 phases, and if our listeners can get anything out of it in like short summary, or is it going to be too complicated to just talk about?
No, it's pretty simple. And this really, we have clients that come in at all different points. And so when I was trying to build like one model for us to follow, it took me a number of years to kind of put all the pieces together and figure out like, well, how do I create something that solves problems for businesses at all different points in their journey? Like we've had businesses that have been around for 50 years. We've also had businesses that started 50 days ago. So creating a methodology that both of those businesses can follow was challenging. But I think we got it down to a real science. The very first place we start with everybody is the offer architecture and positioning of that offer. And so, there's been a lot of talk, especially with like Alex Hormozy, with his $1 Million Offers book, and a number of other people coming out and kind of talking about offers. But the idea of an offer is really, it's a very simple thing. It's what are you selling, right? And what is, not just what are you selling, but how are you selling it? How are you taking this thing that is a commodity that allows people to compare you to someone else? Like, say it's a pressure washing business, right? So I run a pressure washing business. I charge $500 to clean your house. Great. The next guy does the same thing. He does it at $300. Who's getting the business? Well, the cheaper guy, right? Because if we're comparing apples to apples, then the cheaper guy has to get it. But what if I said, well, I'm going to clean your house, but you know what I'm going to throw in free because, I care about the health and safety of your family. I'm not going to use any of the traditional chemicals. I'm going to use all organic chemicals. I'm going to use a soft tip on my wand so that it doesn't damage any of your siding, and I'm going to clean your gutters for free. Now, all of a sudden, I can charge more for doing the same exact service, right? Maybe, I'm padding it a little with the gutter cleaning, but I'm doing the same exact service. I probably have similar margins, but now I get the job instead of the $300 guy because I've structured that offer in a way that makes it more applicable to the person I'm trying to sell it to and more attractive to them. Now, the other thing is positioning. Knowing who you're selling to is critical, but knowing how to position your product in the market that you're selling in is the second piece of that puzzle. Like, listen, if you are selling to homeowners in LA County, that's great. But there's a lot of different homeowners in LA County, right? There's people that own very, very small houses and very, very big houses. And then there's people that rent houses and Airbnb them. Those are three very different homeowners. Very different. So if you just say, well, I'm selling to homeowners,
it's not
which
specific
ones?
enough, yeah.
Right? You need to be able to position that pressure washing business to serve, well, I only clean mansions. I clean ultra luxury houses, and we provide a level of service way beyond. That's why we charge $1,500, whereas the guy down the street charges $300, right? So that's the first phase that we start with. The second phase is really making sure that their web presence reflects that. Because a lot of times when we go through this with clients, even if they're a legacy business, they've gotten into those bad habits of commoditizing their offer. Oh, we just do pressure washing. No, you don't. You do luxury pressure washing for millionaires, right? So we need to make sure that their website reflects that. And sometimes if it's too much work or they're nervous about it, what we'll do is create a separate landing page. The third phase is developing the content that we need to promote it. So this is writing the ad. This is writing the landing pages, all of that kind of stuff. Then we go into production, which is getting the ad built, setting up all the technology, recording the ad, editing the ad, all of that kind of stuff, putting that into play. Then we get into launching it and monitoring it and making sure the ad's performing and making those kind of slight adjustments. And our fifth and final phase is sales support. Because what we discovered was that while a lot of these businesses were perfectly fine with sales, there was also a huge contingent of people that because they had never, most of their sales were coming from referrals, they never really learned how to sell to cold audiences. And so understanding how to now pitch your product to someone who is just coming off of Google or Facebook, who doesn't know you, who didn't get a personal recommendation from a friend, that's huge. And so we have a sales support system that, if you're not able to do sales, we will put people in your business that can do some of that sales, do some of that business development for you, or we can train you or your team on how to do that. So that's really how the five phases break down.
That's wonderful. I love that model, honestly. It's full circle, especially that last step, because right when you get in front of the right customer, you need to close the deal and sell what you're selling, right? So a lot of times people look at ads and performance and they think, oh, it's doing great, but those leads coming in, if you can't close the deal, then it doesn't matter if the ads are doing good if you're not getting the business at the end.
So the moment when I realized we needed this, because we didn't used to offer it, was that we had been working for a client and we launched her campaign, and the first week she got 287 leads. And I was through them. I was like, this is awesome. She just broke all these records. It's the highest performing ad of all time. Like, and it was, and the budget was not, she was a small business owner. This was not like, oh, well, it's General Mills and they got $1 billion. No. She was truly a small business. She launched this ad. She didn't, it was, I don't even know if she was spending 50 a day. It might have been like 30 a day. And so she's launching this ad. And I swear it was like a week, and she had all these leads come in, and I was like, this is fantastic. Her calendar's full. She's all excited. And then I catch up with her about a month later, because she's busy, obviously. She's got all these sales calls. And I'm beaming. I'm so excited to see her. I go, so how much money did you must have killed it. Like, that's so many leads. Like, man, if you close 20% of those, you must be making, like, what did you make? Like 20 grand, 30 grand, 40 grand this month? She's like, I didn't make any sales.
Oh my gosh.
Like, how? I was like, you had 287 leads. You called every lead. You didn't make a single sale? She's like, yeah. And I was like, that is statistically impossible. There is no way that someone who has any ability to close can go through 287 leads. That, by the way, came through an ad with her in it, who they knew who they were meeting with. Like, everything was lined up for this to be a sale. And the fact that no one closed, I was like, this is a bigger problem than I expected. I thought the problem was I just need to get them leads. That's all I need. Once I get them leads, they're good. But some people are so used to living hand to mouth, to only getting referrals, to only dealing with leads that are so warmed up to them already by someone else, that they don't actually know how to sell. Those leads are kind of closing themselves. They've already decided to buy before they talk to the person because of what other people are telling them. And so once I realized that, I was like, well, we have to add this phase, and we have to start teaching people how to actually sell, at least at a rudimentary level, at least at a level where they're not spending all this money with us, getting all these leads, and then like
not doing anything with them.
Yeah, and it's not her fault. Like, I don't blame her. No one taught her how to sell. It's just
It's a different skill, yes.
Yeah, it's a very, selling is hard. It's a really, really hard thing to do, and that's why that's why they say entrepreneurship isn't for the weak. Like, it's not. It's hard.
Yes, and that's why our listeners are here today, learning and jotting down notes to make sure they know what areas of their skills they need to tune up or hire out for. Now, I love getting to know my guests a little bit and asking some fun questions. So let's talk a little bit about you. So you have started your company back in 2020 within the COVID crazy times. Now, before that, can you tell us what you were doing and what led you up to start your own business?
So I've always wanted to run my own business, and for most of my career, I have been running my own business. There were a few stints there where I took the traditional office job, but they were relatively short-lived in the grand scheme of things, in terms of when I was only doing that, when I wasn't also running a business on the side. So, I mean, going back to my childhood, my dad was my biggest kind of mentor in that, because I watched him build his own business and quit the 9-to-5 and do that, and the success and excitement of watching him launch that business. So that kind of primed me as a young kid that, like, this is what I want to do. Like, I don't want to be stuck in an office. I want to do this. This is way more exciting than, like, punching a clock every day. And then throughout my whole career, I mean, I started in media. I got a degree in film. I really quickly, once I got out into the world, realized that unless you wanted to be a coffee boy, you better be working for yourself. Because I am not suited to get people coffee. I can't remember their orders. And also, I'm just not. Yeah, so many times when I was, like, doing internships early on, they would send me out for coffee, and I'd be like, I'm just not going to go back. I'm just going to leave. I'm just going to take the money and go home. Because it was just so demeaning to go through 5 years of education, have a master's degree, and then be, like, managing a Starbucks order. I was like, this just isn't right. So I started a business in production, And but I really struggled to grow. I just could not get clients, and I'd get some, and I'd make a little money, but I'd barely be getting by. Meanwhile, the stuff I did get would win awards all the time. I'd get all these accolades and awards and film festivals, and I was like, if you would look at my credits, you'd be like, how is he not like all over Hollywood? I'm like, because I had such a hard time growing this business. And so I was looking at other businesses that were beating me out in some of these pitches, and I was like, there's no difference between the quality of film that I'm doing and that they're doing. So they have to be doing something different. And that thing has to be marketing, because it's the one thing I don't know anything about. I know how to set up a shot. I know how to hold a camera. I know how to edit. Like, I know all of the stuff they know, but I don't know that piece of it. So I'm a bit obsessive, and I read hundreds of books and took all these courses and just like dove deep into marketing. And as I was learning all these skills, I had a client at the time, and he had just done a video. And you got to remember, this is kind of like at the beginning of companies going online with video. It's not like it is today where everybody has a TikTok account. This was like the very beginning of that. And so this guy is like, hey, this video looks great. I don't really know what to do with it. Like, it's kind of embarrassing. Like, I paid you for this thing, but it sounded really good when you sold it to me, but now I don't know what to do with it. And I was like, oh, that's not a problem, man. Like, we can sit down. Let's like work out a marketing plan. So we did, and we spent like 3 hours together. And at the end of it, he was like, oh, this is great. This is going to be awesome. I should probably pay you for this, right? And I was like, what are you talking about? And he's like, well, like, you like help me build this marketing plan. And I was like, oh, that's all right, man. He's like, no, you should probably charge me for this. And so I was like, oh, I didn't ever thought of that. I didn't ever think someone would pay me for ideas. This is way better than lugging cameras around. So from that moment forward, I kind of was like, all right, I'm going to position myself so that I can move out of production and into marketing. And so like from there, I took a job leading a video department that was struggling at a university. And I turned that around. I insourced a bunch of their operations and like systematized a bunch of stuff. And I just continued to learn more about marketing. And I had a friend on the team who did paid media, and he taught me how to do paid media. And then I went from there to an ad agency, and then I learned more about marketing and how to write briefs and how to respond to briefs and RFPs. And then I left there and I did some consulting work, and I consulted with this company for a long time where I ran a whole bunch of products for them, like marketing products. So I learned how those products work and metrics and data and analytics and like all this stuff. And so I just like slowly assembled this arsenal of skills.
Wow.
And then
it's almost
around
like
20
leading up to your own company. So
well, that was the goal.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, I just need to get enough knowledge, because I had enough knowledge to run the media, but I was like, I don't want to do that anymore because I can get paid more doing this other stuff, and I can just get paid for my thinking and not like, I don't know if you've ever carried camera equipment. It's very heavy. It hurts your back. Like,
Yes,
so I didn't
imagine.
want to do that. And so in 2020, in January, I knew I had about a year left consulting with the current client I was with, and I knew that was going to be coming to an end. And I was like, now's the best time possible. Now it was in January. I do a bunch of setup. I'm ready to pull the trigger. Website's built. Pandemic happens. And so instead of selling all through the pandemic, I just interviewed business owners. And I just pitched them kind of what I was thinking. And I got so much incredible feedback. And that's really where the new model came from, is because I heard both sides of it. I heard, oh, yeah, I've hired paid media companies. They never do anything. They do X, Y, and Z, and they run away with your money. Or I heard, yeah, I don't like working with marketing agencies because they try to throw everything in the kitchen sink and then the bill's too high and all this stuff. So I took all of that, all the pain points they expressed, all of the insights they gave, all the things they didn't like, and I was like, I'm just going to build a business that's the antithesis
Based
of
on
all
what
the things
they
they don't
want.
like. Yeah, I'm just going to give them the agency they want, and that's how it's honestly, I'm not like some super genius that like came, like, no, I just did my research. That's all.
But
It's like half of what marketing
it
is.
sounds simple. It sounds simple, but you did exactly what any entrepreneur needs to do before they fully launch a business. And it's sad that a lot of people miss that step. I've learned this in business school, but sometimes even if you do learn it, if you don't practice it, it just doesn't happen, right? We think it's a great idea. We've talked to a few people, they encourage us, but the pool of few people of our friends, they probably think just like how we think. It's not big enough. So just interviewing like a bigger pool and doing your research and actually building based on need versus what you think people need is phenomenal. So congratulations, honestly. It's very, very like nice to hear your journey and what led to GroHaus.
Oh, thank you very much. I mean, on your point about, having encouragement from the people you love, I would actually prefer, if I had a choice, I would rather have discouragement from the people I love for two reasons. One, because that's valuable market feedback that you could trust, right? Like, people say, that's not a good idea.
Yeah, honest feedback.
But even if it's not, it still is the stuff that fuels the fire in your belly to get up every day and prove them wrong. So, like, I love encouragement. I think encouragement is really good. Encouragement coming from the right people at the right moment is critical. But, like, it's just like, every failure is just an opportunity to grow, learn, and change, right? Like, that's all failure really is. You should equally take the discouragement of others in the same way. Like, if someone says, oh, that's never... Like, look at how they treated Elon Musk when he said he was going to launch a car company. Oh, he'll never do it. It'll never get off the ground. He'll never... And then he put the first car on the road, and he's like, well, I mean, he's only going to have one car. No one's going to buy it. And then he sold out for, like, 6 years. Like, yeah. It's... You just have to, like, remember that there's a difference between, like, market-based research and, like, understanding your market and understanding their needs and coming to the conclusion that, yeah, your business just doesn't meet those needs, or it does, and the opinions of other people. And so, like, that I think is the big thing that people have to keep in mind is, like, anecdotal research there's a big difference between that and actual research. And what I did was actual research.
And data, yeah. Wonderful. Thank you. Now, going back to the fun question. So I always like to ask. So going through the journey of life, a lot of times different things keep us happy or fulfilled, or whatever we think that equals happiness or fulfillment in life. What does happiness and fulfillment look like to you today? And what did it look like to you 10 years ago?
Happiness and fulfillment is a 5 o'clock walk with my daughter around our block. That's pretty much the pinnacle of happiness right now. Happiness 10 years ago, I think would probably be making enough money and having the stability to feel like my business wasn't a hobby. Because for a long time when you're starting a business, especially if it's a slow growing business, it can feel like you're not a real entrepreneur, that it's just a hobby. And again, like going back to that like discouragement thing, I was on a train going to a job back in my freelance media days. And I was talking to this woman that was also on the going to the same thing. And she asked me like, well, how often do you do this work? And I was like, a couple times a week, I'm trying to grow it. And she's like, so you don't do it full time? And I was like, no, not right now. And she's like, so this is a hobby?
Oh my goodness.
And I was like, no, this is my career. I've just spent 5 years in college building up to this. And she's like, well, no, if it was a career, you do it full time. This is a hobby. And like,
I can see how pissed off you were.
I was furious. I was absolutely furious. But the reality is the reason I was furious was because deep inside me, that is how it felt. Because I wasn't doing it full time. I wasn't doing it. So 10 years ago, I would say having that feeling, I mean, this is 2014. Yeah. It would be, man, I really wish I could feel like this was a real thing and not something I'm just kind of like piddling at the side. Like, okay, I'm making $1,000 here or there. It's like, oh, cool. Yeah. It's like actually having revenue, having employees, having payroll, like having that stability of like, oh no, I own a business. I
Yes,
100%
and
own it.
it's
I
a
have the
mentality
taxes
thing
department.
too. Yes, taxes. I love taxes.
Yeah.
And I think it's a mentality and mindset too, and we build it with confidence as well. Starting out a new business when we're not making a lot of money, yes, it could be really tough, especially if other people talk down upon you, and deep down you know you could do more, you could do better, but it's just not there yet. And I could see why that can either encourage you to work harder or be fully invested in it instead of doing it part-time. But I think a lot of it, I don't know, in my opinion, is the confidence and also our mindset. Back then you were probably still struggling to have maybe a fully clear vision of exactly how you're going to get here today. Not you specifically, just just in general, as
Oh, yeah.
why we let things get to us. But anyways, that was a very interesting point. A lot of times people, the way they answer that question tells a lot about them. And then I love how you answered it, that now happiness is just having the freedom and ability to just walk around the block with your daughter, which is so beautiful.
Yeah, it's simple things, right? That's where you have to find the happiness. The happiness isn't in fancy cars or dinner at the Palms. It's in the simple things.
Yes, all those things get old really quick.
Yeah.
All right, so next question. If you had a magic wand and you can change one thing in the world without overthinking, the first thing that comes to mind, what would it be?
I would make all the people that voted for the TikTok ban in Congress disappear. Because, like, think about this. This is the perfect... I've thought about this all day. Because I read it on your prep sheet, and I was like, oh, well, that's a good question. Here's why this is the perfect answer to this question. First off, the TikTok ban is silly, right? It is clearly an encroachment in free speech. It'll probably get thrown out in the Supreme Court. And also, if you've ever met anyone that works at TikTok, they're in Austin, Texas. They're not in China, right? So this whole thing is silly. And every single person who has voted for this, almost without fail, has all taken money from Facebook and the other social networks. So it's total hypocrisy to line their own pockets. Plus, pretty much anyone who voted for it is probably not a good person anyway. And I think Congress would be better without them. So I think anyone that supported the ban just instantly Thanos snaps out of existence immediately, and we all get a much better Congress in the next 90 days once we have to elect a whole new group of people.
And that's your magic wand. So there you go. Beautiful.
So marketing is a lot like exercise or following a diet or a weight loss plan or anything like that, right? It's consistency is what makes it successful. A lot of people, the reason why their marketing fails is that they're not consistent in their efforts, right? It's the same kind of reason why, you get really motivated January 1st and you're like, I'm gonna lose 20 pounds. And then you sign up for the gym and you go to the gym for the first week. And the next week, you go half the week. And then the next week, it rained, so you didn't go at all. And then the fourth week, you're eating chocolate cake and cookies on the couch again, and you're like, oh, I'm never going to lose this weight. Or you're the guy that goes to the gym once every 3 months. And right before Easter, you're like, oh, I got to lose this winter. And you go once. Or you eat one healthy meal a week and then Domino's the rest of the week. And I love Domino's, but you can't eat it every day. So marketing is the same way. If you get into this habit of I'm going to focus on my marketing for today, and then you're all ramped up, and then you realize, holy cow, this is a lot of work, and then you don't get as much done as you hope, and then you get kind of disenchanted with it because you're like, this is going to take forever. And then the next day you try it, but you're not in the right mental space, so you put it down, and then you don't do it. And so the big thing with marketing is people feel like a lot of times you're losing when you're first marketing, because you are. That's natural. That's growth. That's what we talked about at the beginning. That's failure. But the problem is that when you give up, when you don't learn from those experiences, when you don't come back the next day and say, yup, that ad didn't work, I'm going to write a new ad. That product didn't work, I'm going to build a new product. When you stop growing, you stop success. No one out there has ever built a business by staying still. No one out there has ever built a business by calling it in every other weekend. you have to have some level of consistency. There's a great book, I don't remember the guy's author, but it's called The 10% Entrepreneur. And the whole concept is, like, don't quit your job to start a business, because that's really hard. Just take 10% of your time and income and dedicate it on the weekends, in the afternoons. And people go, well, it's going to take me forever. Yeah, it'll take, because you're only giving 10% of your time, but you know what's going to pay off? That business is going to grow by 10% every day. You're going to get a little bit closer, a little bit closer, a little bit closer. Every single day, you're building and building and building, and that consistency is what's going to pay off. So it's anytime someone says, oh, I really got to get back to it, it's just like, I want people to equate that to being like, yeah, I really should stop eating chocolate cake. It's like, yes, you should stop eating chocolate cake. Like, get back on the treadmill. Like, you are preventing yourself from reaching your goals by delaying this, and we're delaying it because, having the motivation to actually get going and to get the wheel turning is hard. It's hard to go from stasis. Our body is wired to not break stasis. It wants to have a stable environment. And you just have to push through that every day. You have to get up every day and say, nope, I'm not going to be stasis. I'm going to beat stasis. I'm going to keep growing.
Yeah. As humans, our natural state is comfort and just wanting consistency, which is the killer of a business, right? We need to grow and do things differently in order to grow. Anyways, and for our listeners, the reason why Drew was saying this, because I right when we ended the episode, and we're probably going to tie this in, is I asked him, I said, part of my business, my product sales and services business, I've been kind of really like not paying attention to it, and a lot of my sales and everything now is just organic from like 9 years being in business, my continuous customers, and I'm barely focusing on any new customers, which I know is a mistake by being an entrepreneur for so long. But I lost my focus in that area because I've been focusing more on my consulting business, the podcast, and my kids. And I think I've talked about this before, so the listeners know. But anyway, so that's why he's saying that you shouldn't ignore it, because obviously it could be earning me a lot more money if I'm going to invest in it and pay attention to the marketing part of that business, compared to saying, oh, I'll get around to it, I'll search for something, I'll find a new marketing agency. And that's been my excuse. I've been saying, oh, I'll search and I'll find the right person, because I like working with the right people and within my business at this point. And yeah, so that's what I was telling Drew. And that's how that conversation started. All right, so before we close, we are running short on time. I would also love for you to share if you had a challenge in your business or personal life and what you did to overcome it.
I think there's big challenges and little challenges that everybody goes through. I think one of the biggest ones that I went through that's an ongoing challenge is the fact that I'm dyslexic and I'm a copywriter, which don't really go together. It's a little oil and water scenario. And, when I was in high school, how they do the, I don't know what they're called, but it's like most likely to be a doctor, most likely to have 10 kids.
The yearbook thing.
So we did those my year, and I was voted most likely to write a novel. And when I got that, I was like, wow, they really ran out of options with that one, because there's no chance I'm going to write a novel ever. Like, it's just not going to happen.
You're writing copy, so close enough.
So, that's the thing, is like, I for so long in my career, I thought, I'm dyslexic. I'm never going to be able to write. Everybody always corrects my spelling. Like, I don't have this skill, and so I can't even think about it. And that kept me on the sidelines from writing for such a long time. And then when I was forced to do it, when I started this business, and I was like, I need to be able to write copy. And so I really dove in, and I read, again, it's the same process I go through every time. I take dozens of courses, read dozens of books, and then and start doing it. I was like, oh yeah, I'm really good at this. Like, I should have been writing this whole time. And I really let the discouragement of others and people constantly kind of telling me, well, it's okay. No one expects you to be good at writing. You're dyslexic, Like, I let that really get at me. And like, the cure for dyslexia? Grammarly. Like, that's all. Like, for dyslexia is a spectrum. Some people have it worse than others. I don't have it as bad as other people do. But, like, now I just have a lifetime subscription to Grammarly. Like, that's all I do. I just run everything through that, and my writing's perfect. And now I write, and the words I write make money. And that's unbelievable to me that I have that ability. And if it weren't for the fact that I was put in a situation where my back was up against the wall and it was like, you're either going to learn how to do this skill, you're going to learn how to overcome this challenge, or you're going to fail. And you just learned it. And so it's now, anytime I'm up against a challenge like that, I think, well, am I really going to wait until my back's up against the wall? No, I should just do it now. Like, let's just do it now and get it done.
Love that you share that, because it's almost like a limiting belief. And a lot of people have different limiting beliefs for not doing what they really want to do. They put this walls up in front of them and thinking that it's not possible. Just like your example, oh, I'm dyslexic, it's not possible for me to write. But look, a simple tool like Grammarly, like you said, solve that problem, and now it's your gift, and you're writing and you're making money with your writing. So I love that you share that, and I hope it inspires our listeners, because it definitely has inspired me. And like I said, we are short on time, so if you can please tell people where they can find you and your last words of encouragement, and we can definitely close.
Sure. So you can find me at GroHaus.org, GroHaus.org. That's our website. I'm also, GroHaus is the title everywhere online, so TikTok, Twitter, tend to be where I hang out. Not very active on LinkedIn and Facebook, although I know I should be. Realistically, if anything I've said has resonated, I would love to talk to you, especially if you're in a service-based business, even if you're in a product-based business. I mean, we specialize in service-based, but I have clients right now that are product-based businesses. So, my calendar's open. I'm happy to meet with anyone who hears this. What I'll say in terms of words of encouragement to kind of get you going, there's a limited amount of time that we have on this earth. Time is your most valuable commodity. And waiting another day to get started on your dreams is the equivalent of limiting your future outcome by a day. So you really have to think about it this way, right? Would you rather give up one day of prosperity or one day of struggle? I would rather have more days of prosperity than struggle. So if you're on the sidelines, if you're sitting there, if you're not doing anything, you're going to continue to struggle. But if you start taking action today, that one action will turn into 2 tomorrow, and 3 the next day, and 4 the next day, and soon the compounding effect of work will be in your favor, and prosperity will await. And then when you get to the end of your life, and you've accomplished all you want, you'll have many more days of prosperity than you do struggle. So get off the sidelines, get in the game, get moving.
Wonderful, wonderful. That's very, very inspiring and very nice closing to our episode today. Thank you again so much, Drew, and thank you to our listeners for tuning in. And until next time, make sure you guys link everything, follow everything, tag us in it. We are happy to share and connect with you. And like Drew said, keep connected and reach out to him if it might be a good fit. Again, thank you to our listeners. Thank you, Drew. Have a good day. Bye.
See ya.
Thank you for listening. Please rate and review this podcast. Follow and engage with us on social media under the Yegi Project. And if you're interested in being a guest, email info@theyegiproject.com. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on any future episodes.